Hey guys, Adam Savage here in my cave. Today we're talking about, well, you clicked on the link, we're talking about seeing. I've been thinking about this video for a long time and I've got some supporting materials for it. It's a really important one to me, which means it's taken me a while to creep up on. I don't do a ton of pre-writing into these pieces to camera that I shoot alone. But in this case, it's slightly different. This story begins with me frequenting over the past few years a lot more online forums like the Machinist subreddit or the Practical Machinist forum. And there's some other home machinist forums that people post their stuff on, they post questions on. And as I slowly get my machine tools in this shop into a more refined state and support them with more extra attachments to do cool stuff, I frequently redound to going to these forums for advice and for inspiration and to understand some of the things that I have. And I love the internet for this, man. This is like the best use case. It's literally the reason it exists, in my opinion, is to foment these kinds of discussions among super esoteric niche parts of our culture that we may be able to find each other and get more work done. And to that end, the internet is still spectacularly successful. I really believe that. As I frequent these forums, however, I happen to notice a deterioration, maybe a deterioration, or at least the photos that people are taking are by and large often terrible. I just want to say that. This whole video is about quantifying what I mean by terrible, and I am aiming to help you understand how to take better photos. But in explaining how I think one can take better photos, I'm going to be explaining, I think, how to be a better artist at what one does. So, what is terrible about the photos? Let us say you have a white object you want to sell. This is an end piece of some 3/4 inch Delrin. Acetyl is the official chemical name. Delrin is the brand name. I believe this is extruded between extremely flat plates, and you can see the bow of the unsupported material here. It's not a I don't think it's a thermoplastic. No, it's not a thermoplastic, but at any rate, it gets molded into its shape. This is the end of its shape. Now, a lot of people sell stock on eBay like this, and I buy a lot of stock from people on eBay like this. But let's say you've got this piece and you want to photograph it. You want to photograph it for an eBay auction. This means that you want to photograph it so that I may buy it. And if I'm going to buy it, I need to know if this is useful to me, which means I need to be able to see it. But seeing it carries with it this other stuff like let me show you. For example, here we go. We're going to take a photo of this, and we're going to take a photo of it from above. Now, there's a photo. We can cut to it. So, this begs the question, what can we learn from this photo? What can we learn from this photo? Not much. Not much can be gleaned from this photo. This might even be a round rod for all I know. I am not saying that the photos I encounter online are this bad. No, not at all. So please, if you are on one of these forums, don't take this personally at all. I'm literally just trying to help. But if you want to take a photo of this for me to see, then this does not communicate nearly any useful information except that at this angle, this material is rectangular, but might be a rod. This has all sorts of features to it. Well, it's got this Sharpie mark on the bottom, but it's got that tip and it's got these square edges and it's this long. So let me take a second picture aims towards showing you what I aim towards, allowing you to see what I would like to photograph. And I'm going to bring this over here. There we go. And again, when we look at this photo, well, I see a lot more. I still don't see any scale. And I would like to. Now, you can add scale by adding a ruler, or I know, banana jokes everywhere. Or I could just do something like this. And then I have some much better idea. Let's take a photo of this. Okay, now that photo tells me much more about this piece that I need to know. Okay, so this is the basic lesson, but there's more to add to this because I played pool, billiards. I specifically played 8-ball, and I played 8-ball and straight pool. I'm fair to middling at 9-ball. I even played a little 3-cushion billiards back in the day, my late teens and early 20s. And I got very serious about playing. I collected a library of over 80 books on pool going back to 1880. I went to tournaments. I hung out with hustlers. I never hustled for money. I was never that good. Not that that's what stopped me hustling for money, but I was never good enough to do that. But I hung out with hustlers, and I even actually, one of my parents' friends was a wonderful illustrator, famous in certain circles, named Robert Kipnis. The Kipnises actually stayed in our house when I was a kid while we were gone for the summer. I went to school with a couple of the kids, but the dad, Robert Kipnis, was a world-class illustrator, artist. Made prints that were beautiful, but also was a real pool hustler back in the day. And when I found that out at a party that my parents were throwing, I asked if he wanted to play with me on the regular, and we played together about once a week for the better part of a year, I feel like. Yeah. And I learned a lot from him. I learned a lot from the way of thinking. What I found most surprising was at the high level he played pool at, he said his methodology was very, very straightforward and simple. Every time he crouched to shoot the ball, he would ask himself, where am I hitting my object ball? That's the cue ball. Where am I hitting? Sorry, the object ball is what you're hitting with the cue ball. Where am I hitting the cue ball? On the cue ball, center, top, low, left, right, or some version of those. What will that do to the cue ball? What will that cue ball's spin impart to the object ball? And where will the object ball go? And what balls will it affect? Okay, let me just break this down. You get into the crouch and you ask yourself, where am I hitting the cue ball? Where is that cue ball hitting the object ball? What spins may it induce? And where will the object ball go? And what balls will it affect? He explained to me that all you have to do to be great at pool is be able to answer all of 4 of those questions every single time you go into the crouch. Where am I hitting the cue ball? Where is it hitting the object ball? Where is the spin going to take the object ball? And how is that ball going to interact with the other balls on the table? I know I've repeated it several times here, but it's like, it shocked me how simple that was. Now, granted, underneath all of that is tremendous amounts of knowledge. Pool players play pool with each other all the time just to build their institutional knowledge of what happens to the object ball when you hit it. Part of practicing is just thousands and thousands and thousands of iterations of what happens. And so you get better at answering those 4 questions. But as long as you are asking them and making the best effort to answer them, you are playing pool at the highest level. And in each skill that I have learned and taken on and inculcated and utilized, I find the same thing, that at the high level of practice, one asks some of the most basic questions and holds them extant in front of you to compare against what your goal was. And so I'm telling you this story as a way of illustrating that every time you go to photograph, see, I think that one of the reasons people take bad photographs is because we think, look, I was going to say, we think this does all the work for us. And the answer is, it does a tremendous amount of work for us. I once got to spend a day peppering the Apple camera team with whatever questions my heart desired. And I learned so much about how dedicated the Apple team is to true color, beautiful amateur, high-level photography. They are all high-level amateurs and they want you to have the best experience. And they've worked really hard to make the photo experience seamless and rewarding. But it doesn't mean that you can just go, boink, I took a photo. I think that's what people think is they're like, oh, I got to sell this thing. So, bump, and they put that up on eBay. And then I'm looking at it and I'm like, I don't even know what I'm looking at. And so this is all by way of saying to you, the artist watching this, who wants to take a picture of something, is every time you're about to take a picture of something, ask yourself some very simple questions. And the first question is, when I look at this photo I've taken, does it properly communicate what I see here? Can I see the object in this photo? I submit in that first photo I took, you can't see the object clearly. You can see one aspect of it, but it takes some dynamism and some thinking about lighting and making sure that it's not too blown out, it's not too dark, and that you're at a 3/4 view, and maybe you use the wide angle lens so you get a little more perspective on it, so I can see how big the table it's sitting on is. But if you simply ask yourself, after you've taken a photo, can I see this? Have I properly communicated the shape and mass of the thing that I am photographing? And the reason I said we're going to start by talking about taking good photographs, but we're going to end with talking about being an artist, is with any endeavor in which we seek to bring something into being that didn't exist, I think we have as our charge, I think I have as an artist, a charge with everything that I make, which is I want to have a goal for making it. And then I want to see if I have achieved my goal when I'm finished. It's that simple. And for me, in the making of objects, one of the key things about them is, can I see them? Here's one. Okay, I built a Rocketeer backpack many years ago, and I had it metal plated by this wonderful company down in LA that does metal plating of resins. And I had it chrome plated, and it arrived, and I was so excited to get a chrome plated Rocketeer backpack. And I opened up the box and I was horrified because a completely mirror shiny Rocketeer backpack is almost impossible to see. Okay, this is a helmet made out of polyurea truck bed liner. I shot this at FBFX earlier this year or last year. It's hard to remember. I'm going to give this a little bit of weathering, and we're going to talk about seeing something and making it more visible. So if I've got this, okay, topologically, this is a helmet. This is clearly a handmade helmet from ye olde times, worn by folks in battle. It's riveted together. We can see the evidence of its old manufacturer. That's the story this helmet tells. But back over here, I can barely see it. So if this is out in the field and I'm seeing a whole bunch of these, it could look like everyone's just wearing a hard hat. So how do you make this visible? Let's start. I'm going to start off weathering this helmet using one of my favorite inexpensive ways to add detail, which is rub and buff. I'm using the silver leaf, silver pewter, and you get some on a piece of cloth. And watch here. I'm about to make this so much more visible. Now I'm doing this in a very ordered fashion. I'm just going for the high spots here. So instantly, I think you can see, that looks terrible, doesn't it? It does. Here, let's get rid of some of that. Steel wool takes care of that handily. Okay, so instantly, much more visible. Much more visible. So if it's much more visible, then let's keep going. Okay, so now, even more visible, a little bit gaudy, don't you think? And now it doesn't quite feel like the same kind of metal. So let's keep going. Let's add some more. Let's see what happens. Okay, so now, yeah, I know. Look, I'm going a little too far. This is the last one. That's this one. Now, what's happening here? Well, actually, from far away, this isn't looking that bad, but it's sort of like we ended up with the same problem we had at the beginning, which is that now it's so uniform. Again, I can't quite see it. Now, I'll tell you, I see a lot of weathering out there that can end up in this camp. And I understand how you get here. Because when you do a detail that looks great and you look at it close up like this and you look at it close up and you're like, man, that's really selling it to me. You're like, let me just keep going. I've totally been there. And then I've also ended up with stuff that was so monolithically a single color or a single value that I lost the object. By losing, I mean, I can no longer see this object. The goal is, for me, as an artist, is that the thing that I'm making wants to communicate itself as fast as I want it to. That's it. It's not that fast communication is always the goal. It's that the level of communication. So let's say you're making a bunch of objects and one of them really stands out, but it's not meant to stand out. Well, then you want to bring it so that it is in line with the others. That's what I mean by being able to see it at the speed at which I want it to be seen. Sometimes you paint something to stand out, and sometimes you paint it to blend in. Knowing the difference is, that's your expertise. That's your institutional knowledge. So all this begs the question, what's the matter with this? Well, on one sense, not a ton. On another, there's a lot that could be improved. I don't want to say this is bad. This is fine. It communicates that it's a metal helmet, but we can do better. So, yeah, I'm going to hit it with some, look, we're going to muck around with it. All right, so we're back to uniformity. I'm going to hit this with a gloss coat, and then I'm going to hit it with this new Rust-Oleum custom chrome that apparently is really spectacular. Normally, I would use Krylon clear coat because it dries really fast, but I'm using guitar lacquer here, which I also really like. All right. I love lacquer for how fast it dries. So the person at a con who showed me this paint, it was like you could almost see your face in it. So I think that I gave it a nice wet coat on a gloss base, and we should see it pop out nice and hot silver over the next few minutes as it dries. May I just say that the Yellowbird Conair Pro is maybe the best blow dryer ever made. That's not based on a comprehensive testing of every blow dryer ever made, so you can take that opinion with the big fat grain of salt I'm giving it with, but I've been using these for 40 years now. And I went to one of these guys, and can I just tell you, let's just talk one side note here. Hi, while I've got your attention. When you want the hottest out of the Conair Pro, the Yellowbird, you simply bring all the switches down. And you can modify from there. But for me, hot is what I'm mostly using this for. This one, also by Conair, same company, that's hot. When you want, oh, right, I don't have this plugged in, but everything's up. And I don't know why, but this one I'm always getting wrong as I'm holding it. And perhaps it's because the handle includes ample opportunities to hit these switches, whereas this one, the switches are clear that they're in the place they need to be. Anyway. I don't mean to rant so much. I just had this one this was like $20 and I had it for a couple of years. It's fine. But this at 60, my previous one wore out after 25 years. And after a number of times using this and finding the interface, I know it's a small thing, but when an interface vexes you and like confuses you more than a couple times, it's time to get rid of it. It's not your fault. It's their fault for designing a poor UX for getting the results you want out of a machine. End rant. This isn't what I expected. Oh yeah, it does look a fair bit the helmet looks like it's made out of metal. All right. Let's just I'm going to keep on mucking with this. But what I want you to ask yourself, as I'm going through the painting steps on this helmet, just keep on noticing from the shot that you're seeing how well you can surmise the structure and topography of the helmet. It's going to change constantly as I'm putting different finishes on it. And that should be educational, because real colors in the real world are not regularly applied. They are misshapenly applied with all sorts of weather and heat and zone and animal bias. So just take note at how visible this is and how that visibility changes as I go. I'm going to give it one more coat of silver. All right, so I just did what it said to do, which was to do a single light pass across it rather than heavy coats. It actually says on the can, if you want a matte finish, use a lot more coats. So I did a gloss coat and then a light spraying of this. We'll see how it dries. It's actually, honestly, it looks way better on camera than it does in person, which is a key thing about paint jobs. What I mean by it's a key thing about paint jobs is it's always good to use your phone to see how the thing photographs. That's often how people are going, it's often how people are going to see your work is in a photograph. So as someone who worked in the film industry, I optimize all of my paint jobs for camera. It's sort of in my nature because that was my employment. It also doesn't hurt for cosplay. Damn, that really does look nice. Okay, let's talk about seeing this now. I have now put on a couple of coats of the spray paint. And it didn't give me the shine. There's a lot of color reflection, which is nice, but it doesn't quite feel metallic to me, metallic-ish. And this is, frankly, this is the issue every young maker has with making something that looks metallic, is that spray paint just isn't quite great enough. Spray paint's way better than it was when we were kids, when I was a kid. Way better, and specifically because they can make aluminum powder in finer, tiny submicron increments. But this is a common occurrence. You paint a helmet silver, and it's just not quite awesome. So how do you make it more awesome? Well, we're going to talk about seeing here, and I'm going to just try to call out some of its details. For instance, it's got these 4 straps riveted to it. I'd like to be able to see those a little better. So I'm going to start with some black acrylic and just highlight those. Yeah, here we go. I'm not going to get fancy at all. I have a chip brush, I have water, I have black acrylic. Just going to put a little bit there, get my brush wet. My water's dirty, none of this matters. Okay. I've also given it a clear coat of lacquer so that I don't like applying paint directly to a finish. I like a barrier coat between the finish and my paint. It gives me more control. So we're just going to go in and I'm going to highlight out the bars. See how much blue there is in this acrylic black? Now, I'm going fairly regularly now, but it won't be for long. Okay, so now I've chosen the first detail to pop out. And I'm going to just refine this a little bit because it was on a little bit heavy at first. But yeah, here we go. Great. My paintbrush is a lot more uniform now. Okay, now we're going to start pulling this stuff off. When the acrylic paint is less than an hour old, you can keep on moving it with water. And you can actually keep on removing it with water. In fact, actually, let's just say you think you chose entirely the wrong color. Let's pull all of this off right now. Let's just pull every last bit of it off. I'm just gonna, yeah. There. Now, funnily enough, there's already some nice weathering going on because I've tried to remove all this. But we're now going to go in and do what I was intending to do. I wanted to pull all the paint away so you could see how forgiving this process is. So now I'm going to come back in again. I'm going to come back in again and do the thing I did before with the black. I'm going to come in. I'm being a lot more systematic since I kind of understand the structure now. You get to be an expert at painting one-off things. Okay. Now we'll start to pull this paint job back off again. And again, see how, yeah. Now I'm starting to be a little more irregular in my movements because I don't want to clean the same amount of dirt off of every surface. And I'll talk about differing amounts of dirt on different surfaces in a few minutes in this painting tutorial. Well, did this start out as a photography tutorial? Hang on. Let's get some more going on in there. At first, it's like a mad dash because paint's drying. There's a lot of it that looks kind of like crappy. And you're feeling like, is this ever going to coalesce into something that I like? That thought will occur to you every time you paint something. Every single time, no matter what. Every time. I'm taking care to differentiate the strips from the body of the helmet because that's the detail I want to pull out. Now, all of a sudden, see how much better you can see this? Okay, let's go even a little further. That's nice. That's a little heavy. Or is it? Actually, on camera, it's not too heavy. Oh, yeah. This looks really harsh here, but kind of spectacular on camera. Now, detail is starting to come out, right? All of a sudden, I'm starting to feel some real detail. Let's bring... And sometimes when you highlight out the places you want to see it, you can see a lot more. Look at that. Look at that. Okay. I feel like we're sufficient in our treatment of black on this helmet. Then we're going to go for some rust. Okay, so for rust, all I've got here is a little burnt umber, a little raw umber, a little bronze yellow, and a little black. So pretty pleased with how this is looking. Let's add some. Right now is a great example of a paint job that looks good, and you could stop here. And I see a lot of people stop here. But always add a second or third color because you see what it can do. All right, we're going to start with basic. Oh, man, my umber is really worn out. That's all right. And I'm not going to add rust everywhere. I'm just going to bring it in. There we go. That's it. That's just it. Just a little bit of warmth. We're going to sort of tease that warmth around the helmet. And again, not uniformly, because rust doesn't do its thing uniformly. Just a little bit here. Yep. There we go. Oh, look at that. Yes. Ooh, whoop. Get a nice whole big fat rusty panel here. All right, now we're going to start to bring in the brighter yellow. Again, so I just add it like this and then pull most of it off. Ends up looking like dirt in the corners there. Ends up looking just like a little bit of. And again, you can be really bold about wiping this stuff off again. You can keep on doing passes if you want. Now I start to add some streaks that are like this, and then I start to pull them off, but not quite as much. Because this is where life actually does irregular things to objects. All right, let's get some of the dark stuff in here. Come over here. Yeah, like that. Now I've got a little bit of yellow, the dark, and the burnt umber. Okay, so now I can see that I've lost a little bit of the visibility of this thing. So again, we're just going to come in again with some black and do what we did before. We're going to line this up and take it down. When your paint is a little too dry to wipe off with water, hit it with a little rubbing alcohol, like that, and then that will come back off. Oh, actually, you know what we're going to do? Instead of pulling the paint off of there, we're going to add some of the rub and buff. Where is it? Where is me rubbing and me buffing? So I'm going to get some rub and buff on here. And now I'm going to use it to bring back out these highlights. So then, look, there's a whole bunch more places I could go with this. But I think this really shows my point. I think you can see now. See how that draws your eye? That's no bueno. I don't like that as a weathering thing. Sometimes nature does that, but frankly, rarely in such a definable shape. So let's take care of that. Where is that? There it is. Better. Yeah. Feeling like a piece of hammered metal finally. Yeah. Still Still that one. Ooh, that did it, didn't it? Look, I'll be honest with you. It's hard. It's always concerning. I always feel like I'm screwing it up until I get it right. And that's also part of the fun. Yeah, here we go. Where is it there? There, that one. Yeah. Yep. Great. God, I love scenic painting. There you go. So this is what I mean by if we go all the way back to my description of being in the crouch at the pool table. The crouch is sacred. Put the cue between your index finger, grab it there just slightly beyond the halfway point, slot in and ask yourself the same questions. Where am I going to hit the cue ball? Where's the cue ball going to hit the object ball? Where's the object ball going to go? How does it affect the other balls on the table? When you're about to paint something, ask yourself, what is it made of? What do I want to see? What should draw my attention and what should not? And I hope that I have demonstrated a way of finding a paint job and executing one based on being able to see and understand the object. So we cut back to a shot from earlier in this where you're looking at the basic black one, or now we can cut to a shot where you're looking at the basic silver one and see how much more visible this is. Now, there's a whole bunch of it that's communicating what the thing is made of, but that's ancillary to showing how it's made and the parts that it is made from. And the right kind of paint job, the right kind of execution of anything makes it more visible. I mean, the real thing that separates great art from good art is that it makes its point, I don't want to say faster, because speed is not of the essence, but it's more like it makes its point with rigor. Look, I was talking about looking for high spots and sort of bringing things together. The axiom that goes on in my head is, I think, can I see it? Do I see what I'm intending to be looking at? What I'm intending to make to be looked at? Do I see it? So every time I'm making something, my question is, can I see it? And this started out with graphic design. Look, I'm sure you've made a wedding invitation. And if you did, you were probably surprised by how putting the date and the time and the location and the dress in different orientations communicate that information to you at different speeds. This is the soul of graphic design, is how to get the message across with the greatest efficiency. Now, that is just my value of getting the point across with the greatest efficiency. That doesn't necessarily mean that's a universal value or one that must be followed. But within the frame of graphic design, of learning how to communicate an idea, which is like, come to my wedding. What do you need to know? How many times do you go to a restaurant's website and you yell at the website, all I want to know is when you're open and what your address is? You're yelling at the website. You want to see a specific thing. So if you're like doing an army of soldiers fighting each other and you want to see a whole bunch of metal helmets, that's going to require a specific execution. And that execution is then, every person down the line is doing their painting and asking themselves, can I see this? Does it communicate the material, the construction that I want it to? And I submit that this paint job does that very well. I'm very happy with this. So going all the way back to photography, the question is that I want you to be asking yourself each time you take a photo of something that you intend to show to someone else, ask yourself, is the thing I'm photographing clear in this picture? Do I understand what it is and where it is? I'm also a big believer that you write for the person who doesn't know what you're writing about. So you explain all your terms within a piece of writing. As a communicator, I try not to assume that anyone is coming to my communication with a set amount of knowledge, and I try to accommodate any brain that is listening. That's the goal. So what I'm asking myself when I'm framing up a shot is, am I able to see the essence of this thing? If you're going to shoot a close-up, back out and shoot a wide shot. Let me see both. That's often all that's required for giving scale and depth. But online community, our photos need more refinement, and that's really the ultimate purpose of this video, is to hopefully help you add the refinement thought of, can I see what I am shooting? I know it sounds so like basic, can I see it? But when you ask it with the rigor of how quickly does the object make itself apparent to me? And it's a great exercise to go around your house trying to shoot stuff poorly and then shoot it better. Do I know that this is a pencil? Is this a teacup? Honestly, so anyway, enough of my ranting. I think I've covered my point today. I know, comb over it and all that. Thanks again to my friends at FBFX for letting me use their hot polyurea gun to make a bunch of armor. That video's link is in the description. And thank you guys for joining me for what is sort of a weathering tutorial, but more of a seeing tutorial. See you guys next time.
Thank you so much for watching that video. I've got a merch pitch for you. I'm going to keep it really quick. We have a brand new Demerit Patch 5-pack at tested-store.com. And these are the 5 you can get if you buy it right now. You've got the I hung it off level patch, the I built the chair upside down patch, the I stuck the duct tape to itself. Oh, my personal favorite. I hit my thumb with the hammer and I stuck a stapler in my thumb. Get yours now, tested-store.com.